From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's Just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
Cruelty-free.
Remember, if you got a tip for Melissa, puzzle pieces of memory suddenly fitting together, a conversation you accidentally overheard, how to get those goddamn kids off your lawn, anything, tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837, or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. You just might hear your tip on the podcast. Now here's your host. She's every criminal's nightmare and every homicide detective's biggest stack of telephone messages, Melissa Morgan.
More cowbell. Don't I know it, brother?
Yes.
I actually thought about posing to a couple of other podcast hosts, like how many attempts do you make with a detective who you've spoken to and have agreed that they would be a guest,
Yes.
to be interviewed. Like how many messages, do you put through
Before you finally give up?
Mm-hmm. I sort of lost my shit a little bit yesterday, and I sent I'm going to guess it's my 7th or 8th email after we've spoken and after he said he wanted this very unique case in South Ogden, Utah to be covered. It's very unique. I finally just said, so should I go pound sand?
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, you really did?
That's the only sentence I sent him.
Wow.
Dear Detective B, should I just go pound sand? Much gratitude, Melissa.
Wow. Okay.
I'm just tired. I'm tired. So anyway.
You get a little cranky when you get tired.
Oh, no. Way more than a little. I get a lot cranky. I did get an additional letter. You got to give the San Antonio PD one.
Oh, no. You got another letter from them?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
Explaining why they won't give me any information on Monica Rizzo's case.
They already did, though.
I know. But this a week later. I got that one last Friday. This is a week later. It said, and it's from the, the Commonwealth attorney or something.
Yeah.
It's like, it's still an open investigation. Oh, okay. Well, I'm guessing 24 years later, you should probably hop right on that.
Yeah.
I mean,
You think?
her bones and flesh were found in his backyard. How much more investigating?
Yeah, really.
Anyway.
Okay, what you can? So you've gotten now one from what the district attorney or something, and then
I don't. Yeah, the attorney general. I don't know.
Now
let's just not even.
My God.
At least they, you know what? They answer you and they follow up.
Well, that's true.
They kindly cite, all of the penal codes as to why you have to go pound sand.
Every single one.
Yeah, like here, go pound sand. Here, it's penal code 155.081 is the one they finally. After all the ones from 001 to 156, they sent this letter.
Oh, it settled on one.
Yeah, 155.081, the 81st out of 156, because it's still an open investigation.
Okay.
I know.
All right.
I didn't want to tell you.
So the guy you told to go pound sand, did he
different
respond?
place.
I know.
No, not yet.
That's what I was curious about.
So it's been 2 months, and this was sent to us by an extremely sweet tipster, Stacy, and it's a great case. It's a unique case in that there's video of the killers.
Oh,
it's a double homicide, and there is home security video.
Oh my God!
I know.
Come on. They've got to get back to you.
Well, he did. He called me immediately 2 months, and we're talking March. The middle of March is our first conversation, and he was like, I would love for you to cover this case. I could use all the help I can get. Let me run this up the flagpole and see what my superiors say. And then it was like, well, I'm on vacation. All right. Safe travels.
Oh, my.
I'm just a bit of babu.
Right.
And so I'm like... I just keep emailing him and he keeps not answering. So finally I just said, Dear Detective B, should I go pound sand? Much gratitude, Melissa.
Okay. Well.
Including all the other emails in it too. So
Right. You had a thread.
We have a thread.
All right,
it's actually a spool. It's not a thread. It's an entire spool of shit.
It's like a ball of yarn.
It's yarn.
Kind of.
Totally yarn.
So when you first started saying, I was going to pose. I thought, what are you posing for? True Crime Today or something? And
Yeah. I'm the centerfold for True Crime Monthly.
Miss June?
I miss June.
Okay.
Of True Crime Monthly. No, I was going to pose a question to my fellow podcast
I was getting
hosts.
all excited.
No, you were not.
All right.
No one gets excited when I pose. That is not a thing that ever happens. But I was going to ask a few podcast hosts, like how long do you give it before you just go, I'm going to cover this case without your help? Because you will never respond.
It's interesting because, Melissa covers the case. If she finds it interesting, she's going to cover it. She's going to find out everything she can.
Right.
And sometimes the police help and sometimes they don't.
Exactly.
And the thing is that the police who have who started off being kind of, I'm not sure. Once they get involved with Melissa, once they get into it and they find out really that she really does care and really does know her shit, it always turns out good.
I don't think we've ever had an interview with anyone in law enforcement that has gone south.
I can tell you not a single one.
I don't think so either. I think I have been told things that make my heart sing, like off the record, detectives saying, I'm going to tell you this because I trust you. And that is like being handed a diamond.
Exactly. How can you get... That's the highest compliment
It's
a
a
cop
priceless
can pay.
gem. It's a priceless gem. And I actually had an interaction with that detective today, just asking his advice on something else. And he answered me very quickly and said, I hope all is well. And it's been, a year or something since we interviewed him. And he's anyway, I don't want to.
So all of you law enforcement people out there listening, if Melissa contacts you,
just fucking call me back or tell me I can't do it. Go pound sand.
All right. Fair enough.
Just answer me anything. If you can't do it, that's fine. Just let me know. So I want to say thank you to our new YouTube subscriber, Kev Pie. I think that's a nickname. And
that's a good name.
Yeah. A very sweet review on Apple Podcasts from To the Back, which I love because that's from a rap song. And it's, I think, the most succinct review we've ever had. It's a 5-star review. It's entitled Melissa, and the entire review is She Cool.
Yeah. I like that one.
I like that one too. It doesn't really say much about the podcast, but hey, To the Back thinks I'm cool. And I don't really need anything else, I don't think. So YouTube mystifies me. I spent a lot of time on YouTube, which explains the intro, me saying cruelty free, because what I do on YouTube is watch a lot of YouTubers, makeup influencers, and cruelty.
A lot.
Poor producer Mark.
Ladies and gentlemen, a lot.
Yeah, he goes to sleep listening to, here's how you should put on concealer.
Melissa doesn't believe me when I say that I like hearing that stuff.
No, I don't. I usually try and wear my headphones when I think you're actually going to sleep.
Well, it's so drony and boring that it makes me go to sleep.
How are you bored? How are you bored?
Am I bored by
people setting up a camera and videotaping themselves putting makeup on?
Well, then there's a lot. See, what it is. Just please don't get mad at me. I'm gonna have to sleep in the guest room tonight. It's a bunch of girls talking about makeup.
There's actually some boys too. There are a lot of very accomplished boy makeup artists.
But it's talking to girls.
All right.
About makeup.
So anyway, I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and everyone is very on the cruelty-free bandwagon where they don't want their makeup tested on animals, etc. And I want to come out and say that I only want makeup that's tested on animals.
What?
I'm just kidding. I used to think it meant like little rabbits and scientific labs had lipstick on. No, what they do, I guess, is like shove it down their throats and do terrible things. So
they do it.
I'm sorry. What?
I'm sorry.
You got a picture of a rabbit wearing lipstick?
No, I just hit the microphone. You're making me laugh.
Oh, I see. It's my fault. Okay.
No, it's like we're gonna get boycotted by PETA now. I mean,
the guy from the Hunger Games.
Just so you
no different thing, different PETA.
No.
Okay.
Animal people.
Oh,
just
yeah,
so
them.
you know, Melissa is the biggest softie. She would not hurt
No,
a fly.
I would never put lipstick on a
She
bunny rabbit.
apologizes to a fly before she kills it. I'm telling you the truth.
I do.
You do.
I do. And sometimes I try to just shoo them out and not kill them, even though because they have a very short lifespan. I want them to have fun.
So
I just don't want them in my house. That's all.
that was a joke.
It was
my
a joke.
point.
I'm not.
But
yeah.
it made me laugh.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I made producer Mark laugh. I think my work here is done. I think that's a beautiful thing right there. So, yeah, cruelty free. So here's the message we got from a lovely person who was concerned on YouTube, Bellatrix. And she said, I don't think you're getting the number of views that you deserve because your content is great, because I would never click on a full-length episode of a true crime podcast that says smells like ... And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. So if you, much like what producer Mark said, if people in law enforcement end up talking to me, they decide I'm not, a complete asshole, and they usually end up liking me. If you pay attention, usually, thank you. There is definitely a caveat. If you pay attention, I did not know how long this podcast would go. And I still don't know. I wanted every year to be one of the senses. And honestly, year one was Tastes Like, based solely on the Zankou chicken episode. I love that story. It's a terrible, horrible family annihilation story. It's a lot like what's going to happen in this episode. It's also one of my favorite things to eat. I love that the family is filled with survivors. It's a fully fleshed out story that I love. And I just decided every year. So we've had, smells like, tastes like, sounds like. This year it's looks like. If we end up next year, it'll be feels like. And then we'll have to start going into the sixth senses of, precognition. So I apologize to poor Bellatrix, who was wondering why it would be smells like. So now hopefully. If you listen at all, here's the thing about a lot of podcasts. You can turn them on in the middle of a number of episodes and know what's happening because it's someone just telling the straight story. And if that's what you're looking for, you have a huge selection of that. Sometimes people actually enjoy the intros, contrary to the number of reviews that are like, could you shut the fuck up, bitch, and just tell me the story?
Which you're about maybe less than 1%.
Yeah, it's a small, but still, I am sad and like to please everyone. It's my problem. So that is explaining why it's named after the senses. And after I commented, and then producer Mark commented, poor Bellatrix was like, oh my God, I feel so stupid. And it's like, no, she was coming from such a place of being kind.
She was being kind.
She
Absolutely.
was. She thought, she was like, your content is great. I think the titles are, stupid. I get you, girl. You don't have to like them.
But she also didn't realize that she was saying that there's no description of the.
Oh, right.
Of the.
And there is. And she said she did explain. She did apologize because producer Mark spends a lot of time writing the descriptions. This man puts in a lot of work and does a lot of work, and I am grateful.
We
to
both
him.
do. But it's a labor of love.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, we appreciate those of you who are concerned that we're not getting the number of listens that we deserve. And I agree, we don't. I don't know what to do. I'm just a terrible marketer. So, we've had suggestions like, we need to do a video channel. I don't really want to, but, all we have on YouTube is our logo and the audio. And a lot of people apparently listen to podcasts.
They do, because there are other podcasts that do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I if I, had any more energy or strength, I might, or any talent as far as putting together just slides of, pictures of things, I would do it. But anyway, I'm not going to complain anymore. I'm just letting you know where we are and why we're here. So there we are. Thank you to all of you who have taken the time to rate and review and subscribe to this podcast. We appreciate it more than we can tell you. Please know you can always email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. You can call us at 832-847-7837. That's 832-TIPSTER. We're, always here. We love hearing from the tipsters. We love hearing cases to cover because I just wouldn't even have thought about this case if it weren't for the wonderful tipster Brandy. So this is absolutely a story I never wanted to do, and I fought it. And sometimes you got to listen to your tipsters. So tipster Brandy is one of those rare souls who loves and is fascinated by true crime. And I have a theory, because several of the things she has sent me over the years are family annihilator stories. And I'm like, this is terrible. I don't want to do this. And I don't mind talking to her about them because the stories are fascinating, but they're usually much too difficult. And this one was more than difficult because it involves a child. And one of the reasons here's the thing I love about tipster Brandy. She knows that if she comes at me at a different time from a different direction, I'll probably fold. And she has sent another case we're going to be covering in the next, several weeks or month, that I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I find this terrible. And then I dig a little deeper and I'm like, okay, it's actually got some very interesting elements, and she's right. So God bless tipster Brandy for her patience, because she keeps coming at me, and she's right. She has really great ideas and really good cases that she sends me that I tell her to go pound sand, and she never does. And I'm grateful for her tenacity. So this is one I just was angry at every turn, but my anger spurred me to want to cover the case. I finally let go of the bad part of the anger, and I'm hoping that this comes through in the telling of this case, because we failed as a society. We failed as a system, the safety and welfare system of a family. We failed her. And it's the case of Judith Barsi. And the last part of the story is the part that it angered me so badly that propelled me to do this story. And I'll explain that when we get there. But this is, a 10-year-old girl who, came from a difficult situation, but had a mother who was bound and determined that she have the opportunities in life that Maria, the mother, never had. So we have to go back to Maria and Joseph Barsi meeting. They are both emigres from Hungary, and they both end up in Los Angeles. Now, Joseph Barsi, and it's Barsi, but pronounced it's not Barsi, it's Barsi, and Maria meet at a restaurant that is frequented by Hungarian immigrants who had fled, a communist regime. And Joseph Barsi is known as Arizona Joe. He had spent a short amount of time in Arizona, and yet that nickname stuck. And they were both in Southern California. Now, Joseph is, quite a bit older, like 12, 13 years older than Maria. And he's like a big burly guy, and he was a plumbing contractor. And, he made a good living. It was a good, solid living. And Maria was a server at this restaurant that, that a lot of Hungarian immigrants, gathered in. And he saw her and said, I'm going to marry her. And he did. And they get married, and they have beautiful little Judith. And another reason that, I love Judith is her birthday is June 6th. So she's born June 6th of 1978. And she's a gorgeous little girl. She's unique looking. She's so unique looking for her age. And I think maybe she saw things that, and experienced things in her home that made her an old soul. I think she came into the world an old soul. I think that's pretty well examined because of her roles in acting and the way directors and agents and those in the industry spoke about her. I think she had a maturity that was rare for a child. And, that's what makes sometimes a really good child actor. And you worry that maybe they're being pushed, before they're ready to do something. But Maria, her mother, saw something in her daughter Judith and fostered it. And Judith, I don't think, was a shrinking flower. She was like a very happy, bubbly, personable young girl. And I think she took her mother's instruction and ran. And there's a grace in not knowing how difficult a journey might be when you are an immigrant from another country and you come to Southern California and you think, I have this beautiful child who I think could be in show business. And Joseph is like, oh, that's not ever going to happen. It's a 1 in a million shot. It's not going to happen. And in the meantime, Maria is teaching Judith the things that she was taught in Hungary that were kind of old school, but became something that was a positive in Judith's life. She taught her, like poise and keeping your spine straight, and, taught her, dance and singing, and even how to ice skate. And that is what helped. She was gliding effortlessly across, a frozen skating rink, and a commercial production crew saw her. And they were like, okay, that kid is amazing. Now, part of the thing that I think helped her, it's an odd thing that it would be considered a negative, but helped her, is that she had a growth issue, and she was actually receiving injections at UCLA Medical Center to help like growth hormones, because she was very small for her age. By the time she was 10, which is the last year of her life, she was 3'8". She was still playing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she was still playing 7 and 8 year olds. And when I say playing 7 and 8 year olds, she had a resume. I mean, she started acting at the age of 5, and she had a resume that was kind of amazing. So in the 5 years that she was an actor, she did 72 commercials. She played the youngest daughter of Jeffrey McDonald in that Fatal Vision miniseries, A Family Annihilation.
Wow.
I know. When I talk about it, I get chills. She was 5 or 6, and she played Kimberly McDonald, the youngest child. She was aged 3, supposed to be age 3. She, was on all of these shows from the 80s that some of you may remember, some of you may be too young, but Knots Landing, The Fall Guy, Remington Steele, Punky Brewster, Trapper John M.D., Cheers, Cagney and Lacey, The Love Boat.
Holy cow, I had no idea.
I mean, she was this amazing St. Elsewhere, Growing Pains. I mean, she was this amazing child actress, and there are a few of her roles that were released posthumously. The two that she's actually known the most for, The Land Before Time, and she did voice work. She was the character of Ducky, and that was in 1988. In 1989, the movie All Dogs Go to Heaven, and she was the voice of Anne Marie. And the director of All Dogs Go to Heaven, Don Bluth, said she was magnificent, and I had planned to use her in anything I could. Any project I made, I wanted her in it. And she's 10.
Man.
I mean,
oh.
So her sort of big film was Jaws the Revenge, and she played Thea, and it was filmed in the Bahamas. Now, that was released a year before she was murdered, in 1987. And that film is tough because her father had devolved by then into such a mess that he said to her as she was getting on the plane to go to the Bahamas to film for 2 months, "If you decide not to come back, I'll cut your throat."
What?
Yeah. Now, that's not where he started. Again, I'm going to have to go back. But so Joseph never quit being a plumbing contractor, even though Judith's career was taking off. And it wasn't like Judith was a huge child star. But she made a yearly income in the mid to late 80s of, like $100,000 a year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it helped them to purchase in cash a 3-bedroom ranch style house in Canoga Park. It's a lovely house. Judith loved the house. Maria loved the house. I don't think Joseph was resentful of his daughter's success, but it's hard to tell now. It's hard to tell all these years later what was going on. He was an alcoholic, and the more successful Judith became, the more angry and violent he became. Now, there's really not a lot of evidence that he ever laid his hands on either Maria or Judith. However, Maria had called the LAPD and said, he has threatened to cut my throat, and he punched me in the face.
Oh.
And he has threatened to burn the house down, which is exactly what happened. The police found no physical evidence on her, so they didn't file charges. It isn't, here's when I say the system failed. It isn't like there weren't signs. It isn't like, he started with, if you decide to not come back from the Bahamas, I'll cut your throat. He didn't start there. He had outbursts. When I say there's no real evidence of him, quote unquote, laying his hands on either Maria or Judith. There is a story that he threw pots and pans, and he hit Judith in the face, and she had a bloody nose. Now, that I don't have proof of that. That wasn't reported to any law enforcement agency. It's difficult to look back and fault Maria as a mother, because I know she made steps forward to get away. It's almost like a 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. And she just didn't get away in time. I guess I don't exactly know, but I can tell you that there were absolutely attempts to get away. I mean, she went even so far as, to squirrel away money that Judith had made, and she rented an apartment in Panorama City in the San Fernando Valley, not far from the home in Canoga Park. She rented an apartment, and she would take Judith and go to the apartment during the day when Joseph was at work. And then they would come back to the house at night, and he had no idea. Well, we don't think he had an idea about the apartment. Finding out about the apartment may have been what eventually pushed him over the edge. But it's, we don't know now because he lied and covered up. And again, the system failed. Can you imagine being an immigrant coming to a new country? You're working in a restaurant. You meet a man who, has a solid job as a plumber. You have a child together. You were happily married for the first 5 or so years of your marriage. You have a child who turns out to be this kind of magical old soul in a tiny little girl body.
A unicorn.
She really was a unicorn. And then your husband is jealous of you, of her, of I don't know what. He was having an affair. I mean, I guess the pot throwing incident that gave Judith a bloody nose is when he decided to stop drinking. His drinking had escalated to where he was drunk a lot, and he had gained a lot of weight. He was a very big, husky, burly man, and he stopped drinking. But I guess you just don't cross a mother, and Maria did not forgive him. And he ended up having a mistress who he bought expensive jewelry for. I can't help but think of Vincent Gardenia in Moonstruck. And he was a plumber and, married to Olympia Dukakis, who we just, recently lost. And he had that tardy girlfriend. It was Anita Gillette. And he would buy her jewelry and, and Olympia Dukakis is like, I know you have a girlfriend, stop seeing her. I can't help but think Joseph Barsi is very much like that. He's this angry plumber who, comes from Hungary, sees this beautiful woman, asks her to marry him. They have a beautiful child, and that maybe he was jealous of Judith. Maybe he was, I don't know. I mean, I know substances can completely rearrange your brain cells, and maybe that was it, although he had apparently been sober.
Well, if it was only alcohol, I don't know if that alone. It sounds like something had come loose.
Oh, I think you're right. I think he had extreme anger issues that were unmanageable. And while Maria and Judith attempted to get help, the person who needed help the most would never get help. He was extremely anti psychiatry and psychology. And unfortunately, besides the fact that he may have found out that Maria had rented this apartment to make an escape, he may have also found out that Judith had seen a child psychologist, which was because of her agent, which I will get to. So here's another story. And these are family stories. So you have to take this with, how it sounds. After Judith returns from the Bahamas after filming Jaws: The Revenge, she goes to visit, she and Maria go to visit family in upstate New York. And she's speaking to her father on the phone. And he said, "Do you remember what I told you before you left?" And Judith throws the phone down and goes and runs into her bedroom and cries. And she and Maria leave quickly. They cut their trip short because they're, I guess so afraid of Joseph's anger, of what's going to happen, and what eventually did happen. So Judith has...
Oh my God, he was...
I know.
It's because they were visiting, he thought they were going to go for good or something?
I don't know.
Don't
I think it was
that.
it was just like a threat, a terrible warning threat. It's like,
Gee, man.
Right. Remember what I told you? Remember what I told you when you left?
So just to be brood, just to be a threat, just to be threatening.
Right. So Judith has this very powerful child agent, and the agent is like, "Look, I think that there's a problem." And what had happened was Judith was going out on a big audition, and she couldn't be consoled. She was sobbing, and she was like, "I think there's something wrong." So her agent, Ruth Hansen, says, "I think you need to take her to a psychologist." And Maria's like, "You know what? I think you're right." Judith had begun exhibiting, I'm going to mispronounce it, trichomania, where you pull out your eyelashes.
Oh my.
She had pulled out her eyelashes. It's like a coping mechanism. And she had started to pull out the cat's whiskers. And so, she really does need some help. And it wasn't that Maria didn't get offers of help. Family members said, "Come and live with us." A neighbor witnessed Joseph Barsi just break a kite into splinters because he grabbed it out of Judith's hand, and she said, "Be careful, you're going to break it." And he said, "You're a brat and you won't share your toys." And so he broke it in front of her into a bunch of splinters.
Oh, that's just cruel. He's just cruel.
Right. So the neighbor said, "You can stay with me. I will offer you refuge." And she said, "It's okay. I'm working on it. I have to take care of this myself." At one point, Judith said to Ruth Hansen, her agent, "I'm afraid to go home. My daddy is miserable. My daddy is drunk every day. I know he wants to kill my mother." And this was after he was supposedly sober.
Oh my! See that? This stuff just bothers the shit out of me. When people are in that situation and they can't leave, they just decide they can't leave.
Well, she didn't. Honestly, I promise you. It sounds like it, but I promise you she didn't. So Judith has a few appointments with this therapist, and this child psychologist refuses to say what went on in her sessions with the agent. But she says, look, Ruth, this child is in extreme verbal, mental, and emotional situation, and I have to report this to child services. And she did. And they did nothing.
They did nothing.
Well, yeah, they did nothing. And at some point, Maria is known to have said, I have to take care of this myself. So someone who works in the welfare system said, we can't save every child. From my point of view, the child was the client, not the mother. It's like, well, then take care of the child.
Exactly.
Yeah. The LA County Department of Children's Services, they were contacted in May of 1988 after the visit to the child psychologist. And they closed the case a month later.
Okay. I don't get it. I mean...
Right. They closed the case in June, and she's dead in July. So Helen Kleinberg, who's a member of a watchdog commission for children's services, said, it's frightening because it appears the people on the outside took the right steps, but we didn't manage this correctly. And by we, she means the LA Department of Children's Services. And they're like, we need to take care of the child, not the parent. Now, this was kind of a shitty response from an LAPD detective, Sandra Palmer, who actually investigated the murders. How do we protect someone from threats? We honestly can't. I could say, I'm going to kill you, and I have the right to say that because we have a free society, but I don't have the right to carry it out. Well, you know what? We're talking about a child.
Exactly. And the child, regardless of whether, the dad was going to actually do anything or not, that is damaging to the child.
Well, thank you. That's the important part here. And part of their, validation for not stepping in further is he never touched them with his fists. He beat them with his words. And that's not good enough?
But yeah, I mean, this is what year is this? 1988?
Mm-hmm.
By then, I mean, we were advanced enough that's not an excuse. That's ridiculous.
So, Joseph Barsi was kind of a big talker, and he always liked to, say that he had some sort of I guess it was like a deep insecurity about his accent, being from Hungary. And apparently if he wasn't drinking, he would be a charming person. But if he got too much to drink, and if you ever said anything about his accent, he, his friends were like, oh yeah, he would pick up a 2x4.
Oh, just like that.
Right.
Oh.
One of his friends said, that he had told him he'd lost the vision in one of his eyes in a fight, and that he had served time in upstate New York for killing a man in a brawl. But this wonderfully written article in the LA Times said there's no record of him ever being arrested on anything other than drunk driving. His criminal record is an arrest for drunk driving, never for anything violent. He didn't spend any time in a prison in upstate New York for killing a man. It just,
so he was a big talker.
I think he was a very, very big talker. I think it's like overwhelming to me sometimes when I look at her list of credits that her very first job was Fatal Vision, where she's this child murdered by her father. It's just, I know. I know. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. So even though Maria had filed this police report in December of 1986 saying, look, he has threatened to kill me, he has threatened to burn the house down. They're like, look, we don't have any proof of this. I mean, how many times have we heard that? How many times have we heard that? It happens all the time. I don't know what you need to do to prove before it's too late. After everything, which we'll get to, the Los Angeles Department of Child Services is questioned. Why didn't you step in sooner? And their response is, Maria Barsi had a plan of action. She had an apartment in Panorama City. She didn't take Judith and move there, but we can't force her to do that, can we? I know. It just feels like one hand is blaming the other hand. And yeah, they're right. I guess, child services can't, force her to move out of the home. Now, this bothered me. A neighbor, Eunice Daly, said she really loved her home and the things that Judith's career had bought her, and she didn't want to leave those things. I don't know that that's fair.
That doesn't, no.
Ms. Daly.
No.
I think it's a lot more layered than she likes the life her daughter has helped provide with her acting work. I think it's a little more layered than that.
It would have to be because there's obviously just a lot of emotional, psychological stuff going on.
Absolutely.
Because that's silly. I mean, if they had gotten away, Judith would have continued to make money, and
right.
It would have. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, you're exactly right. She may have even thrived being out of a household that was. Yeah, I think you're exactly right. So on Monday, July 25th of 1988, Judith missed a big appointment at Hanna-Barbera, and her agent, Ruth Hansen, called, and Joe Barsi answered. And he said, oh, you know what? Maria and Judith, they're in San Diego. Some sort of a big limousine showed up at the house and took them to San Diego. And Ruth Hansen's like, I don't think that happened. I don't think that happened at all. And Joe Barsi said, well, you know what? I think I'm going to move out of the house. But I'm going to stay here long enough to wait till they come back so I can say goodbye to my little girl.
How charming.
That was on Monday, July 25th, and they believed that she was already gone.
Oh, man.
So he shot Judith in the back of the head as she laid in her bed, in her pink bedroom, on her side facing the window. And I'm sure Maria heard the shot and got up, and he shot her in the hallway. They both died right where they lay, and Joseph Barsi went to the garage where he shot himself, but not before setting the house on fire.
Oh, for God's sake.
So they're all three gone, and we don't know what it was that pushed him. But all I can say is thank God Judith was asleep, because, I guess there's some little bit of grace in there. I'm sure it was terrifying for Maria, being shot in the head and landing in the hallway. I mean, he sets the house on fire and shoots himself in the garage. So here's the part that angered me so greatly. I decided to cover the story. And this is an article from April of 2020 from House Beautiful. Because the house was featured on a show called Murder House Flip. Now, I'm just going to tell you, when this series started, everyone and their brother sent me the information, like, this seems right up your alley. And I'm like, you know what? It really does not. You may think I'm a monster and a ghoul because I host a true crime podcast, but turning the scene of a triple homicide or a double homicide and a suicide that could have been prevented numerous times is not entertainment for me. And you can say a true crime podcast is making money off of someone's tragedy. Well, I'll tell you, kids, we don't really make any money. And that is never my goal. it's never my goal to make money off of someone's tragedy. What I hope is to share stories of people's lives, of their achievements, of their failures, of their downfalls, of their wonderful moments, of their terrible moments, of their whole full life. And maybe occasionally we catch a lucky star and someone knows something about a case that is unsolved, and someone calls or emails information that helps solve a case that could have gone on for a very long time. So we know what happened here. We don't need anyone to solve this case. But I do hope that if you or someone you know is struggling in a situation like this, that you don't hesitate, that you do get help, that you do get out before someone puts your home on a television show called Murder House Flip, where designers turn a little 10-year-old girl's bedroom into a different room because the new little girl who moved in is 10.
Oh,
and
God,
is uncomfortable sleeping in the bedroom and says she feels a bad energy. And then the neighbors say, "Did you know there was a murder 30 years ago here?"
This was on a TV show?
Yep.
And it was a series?
Yep.
Christ on a crutch. Oh, my God.
Murder House Flip. Think true crime meets fixer-upper.
Okay.
A home renovation show that only focuses on spaces where murders have occurred.
What network was this on?
Well, I don't know if it's a real network. It's called Quibi.
Oh.
Quibi. It might be online only.
Yeah, it's got to be.
All I know is I find this in the worst taste ever. I mean, producer Mark and I have discussed over the years looking at homes when we were looking at homes to buy, and every state is different. Every state has a different policy. In California, it's within 300 feet or 500 feet. If there's been a murder, you have to disclose it. And it's also within a certain amount of time. And so this family had moved into the Barsi home in 2001. And it's like, oh, did you know there was a murder here? No. And in the bedroom, the little pink bedroom that your daughter Gabby is in, that was the room that Judith was murdered in. So this is the part that just, I'm sorry, this drives me up a fucking wall. These two designers, replace the doors with French doors that lead out to the backyard. They move the window. They put in new carpeting. They, a new paint job in the hallway where Maria was murdered. They transform little Gabby's bedroom into an adult bedroom. They put a new pergola up, that lets in more light. They put new light fixtures in. I mean,
I'm going to throw up.
I just feel terrible saying this because, buying a house where two people were murdered and one person killed them and killed himself, and then there's a fire, that's very difficult and uncomfortable. And if you don't know it because it's been decades earlier and no one is no longer required to tell you that information, that would be awful to find that out. But, take care of it yourself. Hire an exorcist or, a fixer or something. Don't go on a TV show. I'm sorry. I don't care how judgmental or shitty I sound. The fact that this article in House Beautiful ends with the two designers are sitting in the backyard with drinks and they say, "This is one of our most satisfying jobs we've done to date. In this instance, we see how design has a healing power." Well, no, it doesn't. You and your new coat of paint doesn't have healing power. I'm just horrified, and I'm really not that person. I'm a very live and let live person. And again, I've been told that I am, creating money off of people's tragedies. And I'm not. It's never been my intention. And I don't want to do that. But what I do want to say is if anything in your life is bothering you this badly, if anyone in your family, if you are experiencing any kind of abuse, please reach out. There are so many places that can help. You can call us at 832-847-7837. But please know you're worth saving. And more cowbell.
And remember, in addition to calling our Tipster hotline, you can also send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com.